everyone. How are you? How are all of you? Happy New Year. And here we are again. A new video. Several months down what has been quite a road. So I want to start this off with first apologizing. Apologizing to all of you that may come across this video for my absence. A lot has happened over these last several months, and then I kept putting out that I'm going to have another video, I'm going to be doing it at this time and this date, and that was a combination of testing my commitments while also disciplining myself, trying to push myself to reach that goal. And I failed in that. I failed in reaching those goals. I failed in meeting those personal commitments and those commitments to you and to what I want this channel to be and to what I want to do. I messed up in that. And so from the bottom of my heart, I am sincerely sorry. Bit of a disclaimer is that life has changed for me such that I now have new little additions into my life. And try as I may, the sound is not the best in my new office. And these walls are very shallow. So you may hear some voices going on in the background. And I apologize for that. And hopefully we'll get sound proofing material later on down the road. But I just wanted to put all that out there to all of you. Is that I'm sorry. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this video. And I'm excited to be back. It's something that I've really been looking forward to for quite some time. Now, with all of that being said, I'm filming this before the new year, but since it's going to be uploaded and live January 3rd, Happy New Year to all of you. And yeah, let's make the most out of 2022. And there's a lot of goals and ambitions that I'm excited to meet this year. And there's a lot of things that I'm excited to get launched with this channel. So all good things all around. So speaking of changes, I mentioned about the additions to my life. So let's talk about those changes. What has been going on for me that has kept, from then to now, that has kept me as busy as it has. First and foremost is that I am now a parent. I'm now a parent of two wonderful children, and they are very dear to my heart. Now, I found out about them in February. I found out that I could have them as they are half siblings of mine. And so while I was doing the speaking and things like that, I knew that I was going to end up taking a break. But I didn't know for how long, and I did not intend for how long that has happened. Now, going from never having children to now having a 9 and 11-year-old has been quite an adjustment for me. And it's such a learning process. And so that has contributed to my prolonging. I'm only just now 27 years old. And so going into never having kids and, only having worked with kids and other areas of my life, to being a full-time parent is quite the learning experience. And with that, I've done a lot of research into peaceful parenting and childhood development prior to being a parent, just for my own intellectual benefit. And that has helped prepare this. But until you're actually in the experiences, there's a lot of things that come about that you just don't really know until you're in that situation. So it's been a journey, and I love them. They're fantastic children. They are growing and progressing wonderfully, and they are working on their own individual changes. And it's such a beneficial experience all the way around. And with that, I co-parent these children with my two partners, and we co-parent them under a peaceful parenting household. So there's a lot of education, there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of ethics and philosophy that's getting poured into this. And we are seeing such wonderful things blossom from this. It's such a rewarding experience, and it's one that I have zero zero regrets for. So it's pretty awesome. Another reason as to why I've been gone for so long is work, right? My full-time job and then my part-time job. Having kids is very expensive, and part of that keeps me very, very busy or very, very tired. I just received a promotion this past November with my full-time job, and so there's a lot more leadership, there's a lot more ownership and planning and organizing and things like that I'm now in charge of and partaking in, and so that also has kept me away. With that, I am in a position where I am trying to have balance amongst all these different areas of my life, and this is part of that. This is part of trying to have that balance and trying to keep consistency in all those areas. So I'm pretty excited for that. Another part that has kept me away are relationships. And we're going to dive deeper into that later because there's a lot of philosophy that I'm excited to share with all of you. But the reality is relationships have taken their toll on me. A lot has happened these last several months. And I'm just now coming out of the sort of the hole that I found myself in, that I dug myself in a lot of ways. My hair is not the only thing that's changed. And with that, the things that have changed, I have to take ownership and accountability for. And I have to accept the lessons that have been learned from them. And it's been a lot, everyone. It has been a lot. But it's life experiences. And that's what all of this is about, right? Life experiences, ownership, philosophy, ethics, and so much more. And so there's a lot of things that I learned from that and a lot of things that were validated for me throughout these experiences that only validates for me that this system of ethics, this philosophy, this motivation, all of it is real. All of it is true. All of it is honest. And it's the most important thing that I have to require within myself and within my relationships in order to keep them successful. And while all of that has happened, we have moved. Like I said, my office sounds a bit different. There's a bit of an echo, and I'm going to try to filter that out as best as I can. But we moved. We went from a 2-bedroom suite to a 5-bedroom suburban home. And, it's interesting. It is an interesting experience, to say the least. So with all of that being said, here's the part that's important to me. The part that's important to me is ownership, accountability. And this ownership and this accountability is the fact that when I first started this channel, I was at a point in my life where, because of all of my research and practice amongst my own individual relationships and my own life changes that I had made, I was at a point where what I knew that worked, what I was currently researching and investigating, I wanted to share that with all of you, just like I do right now. And because I realized then the sincerity of boundaries, the sincerity of ethics and philosophy, I wanted to put that out into the world. And I still do, which is why I'm here. And now, saying all of that is to say that I stopped that practice to a certain extent. I got myself into quite a few situations throughout all of these changes that have gone on, and I was not as sharp throughout all of this as what I hoped that I could have been. I made mistakes. I made decisions that were not the healthiest for me and those in my life. I rushed. I pushed. And my focus was on the goal and not so much worried about the collateral damage along the way as long as I met that goal. Now, I've allowed myself to get into a state of emergency with some of these situations, and that caused me to be a bit careless. also, I was also trying new things as well. I'm someone who recognizes, obviously, as it got me to where I am today, that there is more to life than what we know. There are different perspectives out there. There are different ways of life out there. And it is because of that mindset and it is because of that desire that I got to where I am today, away from all the dysfunction and chaos that I grew up in. And so, because of certain individuals in my life having different ways of life, I wanted to try that. I wanted to welcome those opportunities because I wanted to experience the individual for who they are. Now with that, and what started to happen was that my boundaries and my ethics, I started to sideline out of welcoming this new way of life and this new experience. And that became the case for the last several months. And the outcome of that, the outcome of sidelining my boundaries, sidelining my ethics, my principles, the philosophy, all of it, is that I lost myself along the way. I allowed myself to succumb to that other way of life, the differences outside of what I was creating, what I had cultivated. I allowed myself to just fade away into all of that and thought that I could still be who I was, which was a very foolish mistake of mine. It was a very dumb mistake of mine. And it is a mistake that I will not make again. That is for sure. And so being here on the other side of all of that, I am not the same person that I was. I can't go back. I can't undo what's already been done. But I can hold strong to that which was true to me before. And that is what I'm doing now. And I am tattooing that onto myself, scarring that onto myself. No, that sounds actually a bit aggressive. But I am keeping that permanency within myself and within my life so that I can remain true to who I am and what I want out of life and what it's going to take for me to get there. Because during all of this, my friends, during all of this and everything that has happened these last several months, I reached lows that I never thought I would be in again. And that is, of course, a combination of my mistakes and from those within my environment. But because I reached those lows and how dangerous and scary and sense of loss that is, just feeling lost and empty and not knowing which way to go or how to get myself out of it. It doesn't give a promising outcome. It doesn't ensure success. My whole motivation for changing who I was back when I was trying to make it out of the dysfunction that I grew up in, my whole motivation for that was to ensure success within myself and ensure that I don't have to be a part of all those problems anymore. And by welcoming a new opportunity, which sacrificed my boundaries and comforts, I allowed myself to go back into that. And as I've said, with these validations, it only validated even more that what I'm doing to get myself away from all of that is working, and I need to keep myself here. I need to continue these practices and discipline it above any personal relationship, any idea. If it violates it in some way, I really need to consider that, and I really need to keep in memory of what happens when the boundaries and the ethics are sacrificed. And with that being said, my friends, that is what I want to share with you in this video. So what we're going to talk about today is boundaries, the importance of them. Now, what is a boundary, right? So a boundary can be in regards to anything big or small. It can be, hey, don't make me food with mustard in it. Like me, I hate mustard. except there's a couple of meals that I will make that have mustard in it. Or it can be something as big as I don't want to see that person, I'm not comfortable around them. Now to you, the individual, you have to decide what your own personal boundaries are. I know what works for me. I know I have a very broad idea, a spectrum of where I can be safe and comfortable, where I can lessen a little bit, especially now coming through all of this. I can sort of gauge if I need to have a boundary in some area, and I can enforce that. Now, but with you, if you choose to do like a spectrum or a gauge or something like that, have to understand that the other side to having boundaries and enforcing them with the individuals in your environment and within your life is that people are not taught to respect boundaries usually. People are not educated on that from childhood unless you grow up in one of these wonderful educational, peaceful parenting households. You typically are not taught that. And so you will find that when it comes to enforcing your boundaries, you will come across individuals who disagree with it, will challenge it, and downright ignore it. Now, in that moment, and this is the very crucial part of where I messed up, in that moment, you have to discipline yourself to enforce that boundary. You have to keep that above all else, above all relationships, because your comfort and your sanity is ultimately what is going to control your happiness. If you are in one of these situations and in one of these environments where you're not happy and you don't know why, self-assess, check in with your inner being. Ask yourself the questions of, why am I not happy? What is in my environment? What is in my circle that's preventing me just from waking up and being happy and doing what makes me happy? For me, it's a combination of things that I have to do for myself to keep me happy. I have to keep myself in a bright lighting. I've realized that I don't like being in the dull and dark often. I enjoy bright lights. I enjoy the outside. That's the extrovert within me. I'm not someone who I don't really enjoy sitting in the dark. For me, it's just getting up and doing my thing. Last night, realistically, I had planned all of this today. I had planned to wake up and shower and have coffee and, come into my now cleaned office now that Santa got all of his stuff out and, just get my day going and get motivated and excited for this video. And so, I showered, I spent time with my kids, and I had my coffee, and I listened to a video this morning myself and got myself pumped and ready for the day. And that's really, really great. And then there's some individuals who are their own person, and with that, they need, they need a lot longer to wake up and take time with things. I have a lot of people in my life like that, and that's completely valid and acceptable, no matter your practice and no matter what it is that you need. But the main thing, and I would say that this is a preferable behavior, is that you need to be making decisions, having practices and hobbies that are healthy for you. Now, no one is perfect, so those healthy hobbies and practices are at times can be far and few. They may not be so perfect. I have unhealthy practices. I consume way too much soda, but I enjoy the way that it tastes. But my kidneys later on down the road are not going to be happy about that. And so it's that give and take. It's that whole thing of dip your foot in the devil's water or something like that. I think that was a country slang. People are also sick in my house, sorry. I think that was a country slang, but I'm not 100% sure. But, it's that keeping that balance, that yin and that yang, the good and evil, the dark side and the light side. We all have darkness within us. We all have that attraction to take the easy road out or to do the fun thing. And it is harder because of the way that we are raised and the way that, especially here in Western society, it is so much harder to do the right thing, to do the honest thing, and to do the truth thing. But with that being said, I know from my personal experiences that doing those things that are hard in the beginning do get easier. It gets easier to be honest. It gets easier to discipline yourself, to keep true to what is important to and to what is important to you. It does get easier in that sense. Now, that's not to say, of course, that we're not all human, that we're all not going to make mistakes. We always will. Life is a lesson. Life is ever changing. We will always, always, always make those poor choices and decisions. But it's what we do with that moment when we do make them that will ultimately decide the character of our being. Now, going back about boundaries is that tending to your garden, just like in the first video, tending to your garden, pulling out the things that are not good for your garden, that keeps your garden ugly. Tending to your garden is having those boundaries so that the beautiful flowers, the seeds that you put into your garden can blossom into something amazing. You have to tend to that. You have to take care of that. And it's so very vital to do that. It is life-threatening to do that. And I say that life-threatening, and I say that so sincerely, because who you are right now is your own consciousness, your own life, your own character. And all of that will change. But the direction of that change will depend on what you allow or don't allow into your life. Are you going to allow certain situations into your life that's going to keep you from being happy? Are you going to allow certain situations in your life that prevent you from growing and being successful within your own personal goals that will, and I promise you, will lead into the bigger success of goals? What are you going to do? What are you going to allow into your environment? And the one thing that I have seen in real life time when it comes to parenting, when it comes to my children, is that you are the production of your own environment. I see this within myself. I am now happier, having my boundaries back and having my ethics and my principles back, right? And then I see that within my kids of seeing where they came from and how they were, and then how they are now, several months down the road, and looking at the production of their environment. They're more honest because they're comfortable. They're able to depend and trust us with their emotions because they feel safe. They don't feel judged for having their emotions. We in this household, we acknowledge and recognize that emotions are a part of individual growth and development. And to a certain extent, as long as it's healthy and it's not endangering anyone, it's okay to have them. Now, if it becomes a situation where those emotions or those challenges get to a toxic and unhealthy and unreasonable extent that you're just arguing just to argue, then yes, no, we need to stop that. But real quick, I'm going to backtrack here after that little stutter. I'm going to backtrack here and say that my kids have their own boundaries. My son just communicated to one of my partners, their other parent, yesterday of, hey, can you please not play with my toy without asking me? And he feels comfortable with communicating that because he sees it being practiced here, and he knows that he is respected for the individual, and he has his own property rights. Kids have them, and that's a very beautiful thing to witness, to be a part of. So I tell all of you this, and I'm going to be wrapping this up, but I tell all of you this to ask you that if you're someone who is lost and confused, if you are someone who thinks that it's going to be okay to lessen your boundaries and your comforts for that of someone else, don't do it. Please do not do it. Please remain true to yourself. Please remain true to your virtues and your ethics. And the thing is, and this is probably one of the most important things that I recognize, and the philosophy that I lessened but I got back, is the mindset is that it's okay if you don't have compatibilities in certain things. It's okay to have respect for differences here. That's what we're talking about, the respect for differences. And when it comes to having two different environments trying to come together and seeing that, well, this doesn't work here, the important thing to keep in mind is that there may not be anything socially wrong with either side. But if you're going to put two and two together and try to create one, then you have to recognize that there are going to be those differences, and you have to be willing to sacrifice and negotiate and try and do all of that without letting yourself get lost along the way. And if you find that you either have to change or sacrifice, ask yourself if the changes that you're about to make, are they what's best for you? Are they what will ensure your success, health, and happiness? Because if not, then keep true to who you are and stick to your environment. So I say all of that to say, please keep true to yourself. Please keep true to your boundaries, your ethics, your environment, and ensure your success. Because at the end of the day, no matter who you're with, no matter what it is you're trying to bring into your life, you're responsible for your own happiness. And you have to discipline yourself with that, because that is the most important thing. I believe that. I'm living that, and I'm teaching that to my children. And it will always, always be for the better. Thank you for watching another video, and I will see you guys next week. Oh, wait, real quick. Once a week, I am going to ease my way back into this by having a video out once a week, every Monday. Thanks.